One of my recent networking opportunities came from a presentation I gave to a local Kiwanis club here in Tampa. As soon as I presented, each of the members offered so many ways and ideas for me to grow my business, so stay tuned for some big announcements this quarter. The first person I met when I walked in is the star of today's guest. This is Writing with Authors, and I am your host and four-time published author, Vincent A. Lancy. As soon as we started connecting and I learned he had these books, I knew how much value he could bring to the show. He has 3 books on leadership, and his 4th is a fiction book. They're titled Six Heads Are Better Than None, Broken Liver, Wing Night, and She Folds. Dr. Shawn Robinson is here, and he's extremely passionate about helping other people succeed. So you have a good one ahead. Allow me to now bring him on. Shawn, great to see you.
Great to be here, Vincent, and thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate that greatly. Looking forward to it.
My pleasure to have you on. Of course, would you mind introducing yourself to our audience who has not had the chance to meet you yet, and then we will dive into book talk.
Sure thing. Yes, I have degrees in mathematics education, and so that's where the doctorate comes from initially. I also have a law degree, so another Juris Doctorate there. But I have about 30 years of administration and education experience teaching, serving as dean at a college in Orlando, as well as president of a local community college campus here in Tampa for much of that time. And so for me, leadership was right in my alley. And I figured, let's put all this stuff out of my brain and take it out of my brain and put it down on paper, and hopefully I can help some folks out. And then I decided to jump over to fiction. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'm also in the Kiwanis Club, as you know, Tampa Kiwanis Club for about 12 years, and the Ybor City Kiwanis Club for about 2.
Well, thank you for coming on. I'm excited to share all of your experience. And since you have 4 books, let's touch on your latest book, and then we'll touch on the rest.
Sure thing. She Folds, right here, is my latest book, and it's a fiction book. It's about a group of friends who've known each other for years, get together at each other's homes and play poker on a regular basis. And during one of the poker nights, one of the spouses gets killed. And we've got to figure out who did it. It's a classic whodunit type novel before the police arrive. It's set in Orlando, where I grew up. And it's set also during hurricane season. So the roads are impassable, all electricity goes out, all those kinds of bad things happen. And the person who gets killed, pretty much everybody hates this person. So everyone's a suspect in this book. But I figured, get out of leadership for a bit. Let's try something fun. I've had good reviews from folks that have read it, and looking forward to my next fiction book.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to learning more about this book. It's nice how you took so many surprise elements and put it into this book. Hurricane season here in Florida is difficult at times, for sure. But what led you to originally becoming a published author?
Well, growing up, my mom would always talk about having experiences and things like that, and always would say, well, I could write a book about it. I could write a book about it. And she never did. Took all of those experiences and ideas to her grave. And I said, I'm not doing that. I've got a lot of stuff that's happened to me over my time, from elementary school all the way through as an administrator in college and community servant, to other personal things that I've done that I think maybe, if nothing else, it's good for me to go back and say, okay, what have I done? What has happened to me? And then try to connect it to what can help other people out. And so that's how those 3 leadership books were set up initially. And that's my goal, just in life, is to help other people out, even since kindergarten.
In my limited time knowing you, one thing I have realized about you is your willingness to help others. You want to help others succeed, and that's very admirable. And now I see the motivation behind those first 3 books. Was fiction always going to be something you were going to do, or was it just time for a change?
Really, it was time for a change. I went to an authors conference that is annual here in Tampa Bay. And after my first was done, my second was in final draft. One of the folks there challenged me to do something different because I talked about, eventually I was going to do a third at that time on leadership. And she said, well, why don't you try something a little different? Try a fiction. Um, Try to stretch yourself. And I said, okay. And so while I was there that weekend, poker night popped into my head. And I could see, and based on people that I knew who played poker, friends of mine from the fraternity and just growing up, the characters just started coming to me. And then so I raced home and just started writing down a quick outline so I wouldn't forget what was there. But again, it was time for change. And leadership isn't completely dead, but it's taken a hiatus at this point, and maybe we'll show up in another form, but definitely something different.
A lot of good lessons right there, and just going to events. Everyone, just step outside your comfort zone, head to a networking event of some kind. You tossing ideas around with like-minded people, something good can come out of that. And he ended up going to the fiction route. He's smiling about the book. You have to check it out. Stick around to the end of the episode. We will find out how to find his books and get in touch with him. But I'd like to first ask for 2 pieces of advice for our community of writers.
Sure thing. First is just start writing. And so if you have an idea, you want to write a book, just start writing. It doesn't matter if it's the beginning, the middle, the end, anywhere in between, just start writing. You can write down an outline, old school, just sit down, okay, intro is going to be about this, conclusion, so forth. But just start writing ideas. If it's on Post-it notes, if it's on a composition notebook, whatever, just start writing. And then the second thing is stop at some point. Whenever the book is done, stop. All right. Don't keep writing when you know it's done, because you'll never finish it. Because, as an author, you want to always make it perfect. There's always more you can add. That's why you have a second book, and then the third book, and a fourth book if you need it. But just get to a point where you're happy with it and stop. And so that's the other big thing that I learned over this process.
I could not have said it better myself on that second piece of advice. I think we actually had spoken about this, where every time you read it, you could change a word, make a synonym something new, change a sentence, move a paragraph. It will never end because you want to be a perfectionist and away with it. It's your baby. You're letting it out into the world. Thank you for that. And now I would like to ask you for your last word here, Shawn. What would you like to leave everybody off with?
Just, be reflective about what you do. Be happy. If you don't like it, don't do it. That's my motto right now. And it's given me great smiles and great joy over the last few years.
Great last word. Now, how can everybody find you and, of course, find your books?
You can find my books at shrbooks.com. And so you'll be able to find the 4 books. There'll be my contact information there as well. My email is Shawn, SHAWN, at ShawnHRobinson.com. And so certainly you can get me that way, but shrbooks.com is where I am.
Thank you for sharing that. And everyone viewing on, thank you for joining us. Be sure to head to that website and check out his books. He has 4 of them. I'm sure one will be perfect for you. Shawn, I do want to thank you for taking the time to join our show on a season 3 episode. We will see you next week. Thank you, Shawn.
All right. Thanks, Vincent. Appreciate it.
See you all next week on Writing with Authors.